My father was involved in a cotton packing business. He was also a Johannean. He graduated in 1924, I believe. And of course, so because of that, I think my influence was a little bit Western. And I started off kindergarten, in fact, in an English-speaking kindergarten. And it's not until that when I was around grade 4 that my father thought that I still mustn't forget my Chinese, that I went back to Chinese school. And in 1944, I entered St. John's University. One of the reputations St. John's has is people always say that, oh, you guys only know how to party and yeah, just sort of the playboys. But you think back, if you want to organize a successful party, there's a lot of organization skill you got to learn. Because what makes a successful party, in those days, of course, you want to get boys and girls together. And when you have a lot of pretty girls around, you get lots of boys coming. And in order to, how to get them to come to the party is the organization skill. To earn money as a student is a rarity in China in those days. It's very, very difficult. And he, at that time, created a job that we have because of the gate post. The gatemen are not very, they don't dare to say too much. And at that time, there's a lot of, this is just after the war, when there's a lot of people coming in and going out, and they want students to be there to be a little bit more aggressive, to say, you know, who are you, what are you doing? And we used to stand, take turns doing that. And I remember for the whole semester, I was paid enough money to buy myself a pair of shoes. In Chinese, when you are fellow students, they have a word called same window, 同窗 in Mandarin, which to the Chinese it does mean a lot that you come from the same stream. And somehow maybe it's that tradition, I mean this is only my own thinking, that brings people together. And of course everybody has their different reasons for doing it. But I must say that this group in Vancouver, they are very good. If somebody is sick, the rest of them will spend time to look after him. I don't see too many of that elsewhere. For octogenarians, we're a pretty lively group.
Yeah, very much.
Right, because the university's gone and yet you have them in North California, South California, the US East. You have them in Hong Kong, you have them in Taipei, you have them in Shanghai, Beijing, Nanjing, Vancouver, Toronto. So for a bunch of oldies, we're not too bad. I went to Hong Kong in 1948. And then I went to England to study 1952 to 54. Other than those two, you know, I worked for the same person all along. So I was there for 20 years. And in Hong Kong, I have a fairly good reputation because I claim I'm not a bad architect. And most of my buildings sell very well. And a lot of my clients at that time would come and ask me two questions very often. One is, oh, I like that piece of land. How much do you think I should pay for it? The next, or sometimes they would come, I've just bought that piece of land, what do you think I should build on it? Now to answer those two questions correctly, you're already a developer really. In 1997, Hong Kong will go back to China, regardless. I mean, that's my prediction. Of course, everybody thought I was crazy, thinking that way. So I decided, I was 40 at the time, and I decided either I stick around and retire when I'm around 55, when I still have enough time to get out, or I will start a new life elsewhere. So I gave up everything in Hong Kong and I came to Vancouver, not knowing a soul, without a job, a wife and 4 kids. At that time, I don't know why, I had no fear. I never thought I won't get a job. I always think I can make it. So here I am. I think maybe it's that determination that puts you to where you could be. When I first came to Canada, I worked for, of course, I don't know anybody, and of course you try to know everybody. And one of the guys I contacted was called John Deeth. He used to be with Hong Kong Land in Hong Kong. He knew all my partners, but we never met. And he's working for Grove International. So when I came over, I called him and I said, of course he knew who I was. And so he introduced me to the president of BC Place, was Gilbert Hardman. And we get along and he hired me. So that's when I started, just like that. BC Place, which I was a director at the time, the president was Gilbert Hardman, the first guy who employed me. He and the president didn't get along, and he left. So the president, Jimmy Patterson, at that time was running Expo as well, asked me to sort of run BC Place. As I can't do two things at the same time, so I took out BC Place and became president of BC Place. And then John took over the other part, and then he went on his own. And in BC Place, I think I did well enough that not only the land that BC Place owns, but I was also given to look into Western North, Westwood Plateau, and also Songhe in Victoria. And actually every one of those were a success also. The original intention was for BC Place, when they bought the piece of land, is to build the stadium, use the tunnel for the rapid transit, and then involve Expo to clean the land up. And the fourth stage would be to develop a master plan and then sell them piecemeal so that individual developers can do that, which was very interesting to me. The BC Place went around the world to try get bidders to bid for the land. And Li Ka-shing looked me up and asked me if I would like to join him to bid for it. So when I was asked to sort of join Li Ka-shing in bidding for this, of course, the bidding involves not only just how much you pay for the land, but also on what you're going to do on the land. So, in other words, we have to create a master plan to show them what we're going to do when we buy. For 6 weeks, I was able to present complete a master plan, the winning one, as well as a model that I made, which is a huge thing, about 8 foot square, because it's a whole piece of it. And then, because Li Ka-shing came in to have a look at it, because to see whether I've done the right thing, whether he wants to bid for it, or maybe I get fired the next day. Anyway, he took a look at it and he liked it. But that was Sunday. And the Monday came, and it happened to be the Blue Monday, if you remember that. That was when New York prices dropped 500 points. And I thought, well, that's the end of the project, right? So anyway, that day he was still around, but we didn't have a chance. He was too busy not to talk. By the end of the day, he came and he called me and said, well, Stanley, go ahead, bid for it. And that was it. So when we signed on the dotted line that day to say it is ours, you have to unveil it. And then Grace McCarthy was there and then unveil it to all the media and everybody else. I still remember we had a big model and I covered it up. So everybody came in and then we just sort of lifted the cover and everybody said, wow, that was the Lagoon scheme. And I remember when we came out, I don't know, Jack Webster, who was a very famous broadcaster, he came out, he raved about it and said how wonderful it is. And I think it was a godsend for me because with him endorsing it, I never had a bad thing written about it. So we got that piece of land and the rest is more or less history.